a lot of teams kind of just give up, and that's how the scores get really lopsided.
Yeah. And you can almost sense it sometimes going into half.
When I first met you at the game, I was like, "Is this your voice?" Do you think that there are any teams that can actually really compete with the Fire this year?
Yeah, sorry I missed our call earlier on. We went out last night and I kind of overslept. I woke up, I was like, oh, I was trying to do. Wait, what is it? What is it? I was like, damn, I have a meeting, and I looked, and I was like, damn.
Nah, dude, it's not. No worries. I was deep into packing because I'm getting ready to leave for America on Monday.
Oh, where you going?
So I'm going back to Texas. I'm gonna be there for like a week.
Oh, for the bye week?
Yeah, I got some things to take care of.
I get that. Plus, it's always nice. It's always nice to get away on the bye week. So we got bye week, so you need to go somewhere.
I know, man. We've needed a bye week. We've played 8 games without a bye week. It's tough. Have you guys had a bye week yet?
Yeah, same. Yeah, so this is like our first bye week, and then we have the league bye week next week. And yeah, it was the same. Yeah, 8 games. I don't know how the league expects people to do that. 8 games is tough. Very tough.
That is really tough, man. Wait, so you guys have yours are back to back?
Yeah, so we have our team bye week this week. But everyone has a bye week next week, and then there's like the league bye week for the IFAF games next week. So we have like just 2 weeks off, which is so everyone's just got.
Well, that's what I wanted, but we have a bye week, then we got to go to Tyrol, and then we got a bye week after that. I wanted to have 2 bye weeks in a row so we could have a long break.
Right, that way you can just switch off, because otherwise, even with this week off, it's kind of like you can't completely switch off because we have a game, and then you have to switch off again. So it's kind of, but yeah, I ain't complaining.
Right, but you just said something about I don't understand how the league expects us to play 8 games without a bye week. You're one to talk, bro. You out there untouched for 25 yards.
I mean, nah. Last game, like our first 2 plays, I got hit, and I was like, "Ouch!" That kind of hurt. I was like, ouch.
All right, so everybody, including myself, are looking at you guys. You're steamrolling everybody. It seems like. I mean, you haven't had one close game, right?
No, we had Paris was a close game. Paris was definitely a close. I think it was like a one-score game until like the 4th.
You're right. Besides Paris, you pretty much every game has been 2 scores or more, right? 3 scores.
Yeah. The thing is, I feel like it ends that way, but the games definitely start off closer than they look. So when we played Munich, they scored first, and that was like, that was like a oh damn, and I feel like that was more or less a close game until like the second half. But I feel like, yeah, most games do start out close, and then like as the game progresses, it kind of, separation begins. But yeah, I think every game has been kind of tough. Like even Cologne, I feel like the thing about football sometimes is like you look at the score and you're like, damn. But then when you're playing the game, it's kind of like, oh no, they were better than the score. Like we just, I guess, scored when we needed to.
Yeah, which brings me to an interesting point about football out here. And you can tell me what you think, but from what I've noticed of playing overseas, towards the 3rd and 4th quarter, a lot of teams kind of just give up, and that's how the scores get really lopsided.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely feel like, and you can almost sense it sometimes going into halftime, which team has given up. Like, okay, guys, we're going into the half, but like that team has given up. We score 1 touchdown, they'll give up. And I'm not sure why that is. I feel like a part of me sometimes, I think like, especially when I was watching, I think it was Vienna against Munich, a part of me was like, you know what, like, that's a close game, but Vienna are going to win. One, because I feel like they've been in the organization longer, so they've had experience in these situations much longer, whereas Munich is like a new team. So like that whole 3rd, 4th quarter thing is like still kind of new and stuff like that.
Sorry, I kind of got distracted for a second. I'm a little bit ADD. but I got distracted because I just started thinking you might be the first person I have ever had to put subtitles for English on.
Wait, why? Is it because of my British accent?
I can't understand what you're saying.
Oh. You know.
But I guess you're speaking proper English. I'm not speaking proper English, so that's my fault. It's not your fault.
Someone on the team said that to me the other day. They were like, Glenn, like sometimes you speak really fast, and I can't understand what you're saying. And I was like, okay, I can slow it down.
When I first met you at the game in Dusseldorf, I was like, wait, is this your voice? Because I hadn't heard you talk really. I hadn't seen like really interviews or much. I just saw like these highlights of like this intense music and like the dark visor, dreads.
Yeah, I have had someone say that in the past that like, in fact, it was Coach Andrews when I spoke to him for the first time. He was like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to sound like this," and I was like, "To sound like what?" And he was like, "British." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. So let's circle back around and let's try to hit this topic a little bit because I really want to try to dissect this league and just kind of these conversations. I want them to be about how to make the sport better out here. And I see it a very big problem. Just this idea of teams just giving up in the third quarter and I've seen it on many of my teams where I look at the players when they're kind of down by maybe a couple scores and just give up. And I don't quite understand it very well. I mean, I've been out here for a long time and I still don't really understand it. Do you have any perspective to speak on that, being a European?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it might just be one. I think coaching is a big part. Like you have some teams that will go into the locker room at halftime and coaches will actually speak about the changes that they're going to make at halftime, whereas I feel like some teams probably don't have those conversations. So that doubt that was lingering on before the halftime still like carries out because coaches haven't actually spoke about, okay guys, these are our solutions to the problems that we're having. So I feel like at halftime, like coaching is a big part, and I feel like you'll see that in the really good teams. Like you said, like it'll be close in the first half, and then in the second half, they just find ways to either get the ball back or to just keep scoring and keep moving the ball. So I definitely feel like coaching is a big thing in that regards. And maybe like even how long guys have been playing together, like if we've been playing together for a long time, I know I can trust you. We've been in this situation before, so it's fine. Whereas I guess for new teams, it's still quite new to go through that, like those predicaments and that rough patch as a team. So I feel like maybe even that is a new thing. And maybe even like the way you guys are coached back in the States. I feel like you guys sometimes like get like really tough coaches, or your off season is really tough. I don't think like teams in Europe really have that like tough off season that you guys have, that spring ball that you guys have in America. So everything is kind of super chilled until you have those tough games.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I really never thought of it because I always thought of it in terms of like maybe it's a cultural difference. Like maybe you kind of there's like almost like a soccer mindset that drifts into football. But like, I guess that's a great point. Being able to adjust at halftime, being able to actually see what's actually the problem and do something about it. But I've just seen even from this year us getting into these funks at halftime where the other team scores pretty quick and it's just the whole energy of the team just drops, and I don't know how. Like I don't know, genuinely don't know how to bring it back up. Like I can't just convince everybody that
that it's going to be okay.
half a game. Yeah. I don't understand that, but I want to talk about a couple things. One of them we already hit was unearthing some of these myths about the Rhein Fire. One of them, the first myth we unearthed was that not every game was a absolute blowout, because that's what it looks like on the scoreboard minus Paris. But the truth is that, those games kind of might got away in the late third, fourth quarter. Do you think that there are any teams that can actually really compete with the Fire this year?
Definitely. Like, I think we've played some of them. I thought we have Hamburg next week. Our next game. I feel like that will definitely be like a different game, very different to the first game. I feel like their defense is really good. That would be super tough. I'm always watching Vienna, always watching the Raiders, the Surge. Unfortunately, we don't get to play them until if we make playoffs. So those are the teams that I'm looking at. I feel like Munich was a tough game. Anything can happen the next time we play them, especially because it'll be away for us. It'll be a home game for them, and they're getting better every week. So I feel like, to be fair, any team, given the right circumstances, given the right day, could do it. Could beat us. But I feel like on the day, I guess we just managed to put it together, and we have really good coaches, so it all works out for us.
Yeah. What do you think? When I went to the game, when I looked at your organization, even on the outside looking in, this looks like the prototype of what American football teams in Europe could be and hope to be one day. Do you see any, from your perspective, do you see things where it could still even be better in your organization?
Yeah, I feel like from the outside, regardless of what it is, things always look a lot glossier or a lot nicer than they are. Things are definitely nicer here, really good here, but yeah, things can always do with improving. One thing would be the rain. It rains a lot in Düsseldorf. I'm not a fan of that. that could definitely change. But yeah, I definitely, and having more people at the games. I feel like even though we get loads of people at games, we always want more. It's now we need 12,000, 15,000, 20,000 if that's possible. So there's definitely things that can change within the organization. But I feel like overall, it's definitely probably the best that I've been a part of in terms of how practices run, the talent we have on the team, the coaches, the game day experience. I had the privilege of, because I didn't play my first few games, I went to the game and I saw it from the other side, and I was like, man, this is actually a really good experience. Watching a game is actually really fun. So that's really fun too. I know the fans, they enjoy that experience. But yeah, things can always be improving, but overall, I feel like it's really good here.
Yeah, let's walk me through kind of what practice looks like. How many times do you guys practice? Talk to me about the professionalism.
We have three. Coach is pretty tough in all of them. He always wants us going 100% and stuff. So that's really fun. We're always locked in. Very similar to the other teams I've been a part of, to be fair. But I think the main difference is everyone knows where they need to be for the next period. So right after one period, I know okay. We have Skelly, we have 7-on-7, we have team run. So there isn't really any walking around. We always have all the coaches are always involved, so it'll always be what personnel do we have? Is it our starting O? Is it our 1Bs, we call them? We always turn up early, so if you need to have physio, taping and stuff done, guys are always there I'd say half an hour early to practice. And then we just get it started like any other team really. You have your walkthroughs, your team warm up, and then you're going to your indies, your skelly, your team run, your team. You have your situational stuff, your special teams. So I wouldn't say in terms of structure, it's very different to any other team. I think we just do a good job of, okay, practice starts at this time. We need to be out at this time. So we need to make sure everything's on time and people are where they need to be when they need to be there.
Yeah, it sounds like the biggest difference is people actually know where they're supposed to be.
What's it like at the guards?
Wait, hold on. Let me ask you.
The way you said that, I was like, oh, I gotta find out what it's like when you guys are at. Like, what's that like?
Hold on. So how do you guys know? Do you guys have a pre-practice? Like, do you have a schedule sent to you before practice?
No, well, not anymore. I'm not sure if they did before. But I feel like because practice is the same every week, guys just know where they need to be. If like there's a time change, they'll put it in like our spawn group, and guys will know. So yeah, I'm not sure if there was before, but now there isn't. Like guys just know, okay, on Tuesday we have this, on Thursday we have this, and then on Saturday we have this.
So you practice Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely something I've seen that could really help and improve football out here is everybody knowing exactly like time of practice. You get here, this period's gonna last this long. You know automatically you're going straight to this period, and because we do have an issue of a lot of people like walking around and then also if people aren't involved with the necessary like they're not involved with say punt team. Like it's just like a party. People are just chilling. Yeah, yeah. Like it definitely.
How do you solve that though? How do you solve that issue? Do you think, especially with a new team?
I mean, I think one of the things that would really help everybody is if the schedule is sent before, like the night before the practice. Like this is what practice is going to look like time wise, in every period, and it even lists out like if you're not on this special team, this is what you're doing. You know, that's like if you want to kind of keep people focused. I think one of the things you mentioned that was pretty big that I don't really see with us and a lot of teams is that you said there's not really any walking around. There isn't a lot of urgency and intensity in practice. There's just not. Like when you're maybe like during the play itself, but like getting to play, you know. Well, I'll tell you one thing too. Do you guys get to listen to music during practice?
Sometimes during warm up, there'll be music, but like sometimes it's really in and out. I wouldn't say we definitely have music and we definitely don't. Sometimes like there's music, sometimes there isn't. I think the guy who like controls the speaker box, it just depends on how he feels. Like there'll be music, sometimes there won't be. It was strange to me though. Like there'll be sometimes when I'm like, oh, it's kind of quiet. Like where's the music at? Mm-hmm. But I guess that just kind of forces us to bring our own juice and to like bring our own energy and.
Yeah. That really helped in college. We had loud music blasting like all practice long. So it was like there was always like an intensity going on, and you had to be really paying attention. Otherwise, you might miss like the call.
What's going on? Yeah.
That really helps, and they actually kind of did that in Paris when we did that combined practice. I thought that was cool, but the problem is we literally can't do that because where our field was. We got in trouble from the neighbors, like these old ladies in the neighborhood. They called the police on us.
Now that you mentioned that, there was definitely a practice where our coach had to be like, turn it down and get those complaints. and yeah, it is strange because it's like, you'd think that if you live next to a field, you're going to expect there to be noise sometimes, but I guess that's like Germany, Switzerland, yeah.
Switzerland, bro, I heard they take it after 10 o'clock, they take it seriously. Like they call the cops. Like we actually had to leave our field on Friday. So we had to leave our field on Fridays and Saturday. We had to find like a new field. It's like literally like next to the military base, and it's like literally just like a field that looks like it. That you just found a field.
Yeah, it's an empty field.
So like there's a lot of things you have to overcome when you don't have your own practice facility and all of that, and so
especially in places like Germany and Switzerland, I feel like where rules are a big thing. Like I feel like back home in London, like if there's noise, you just kind of deal with it. Okay, there's noise, it'll pass. Like, but whereas I feel like here everyone's like very like cares about everyone else, and it's like, okay, even the restaurant that we eat at, they'll be like, oh yeah, guys, at 10 you have to come inside because they get noise complaints, and it's like, it's a restaurant, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that it's interesting. I mean, you got to battle a lot of the cultural differences in trying to get a sport going. So it's little hurdles like that make growing the sport more difficult, but you have to just adapt, and it's just that's why I think it's taken so long. You know, there's all those little things you don't really think about. What about organizationally, like payment on time, like getting communication, like getting all that stuff? How has that been?
It's been easy. Like, all that stuff comes on time. I think the nice thing is that we have like good relationships with like the guys who take care of all that stuff. So if you need to, you know, coach always tells us like, if there's anything, just call him. And like, if you don't pick up the first time, he's gonna pick up the second time. So I feel like that there isn't any like. I feel like there are some teams, I've been a part of teams where it's like there's loads of hurdles to go through, or like you don't know the person who deals with exactly what you have an issue with. Whereas I feel like here everyone kind of knows exactly who to go to, so all that stuff gets taken care of. There isn't any like hesitation when it comes to like, okay, like payment on time, or like I need this, I need that. So yeah, for the most part, I'd say yeah, we get everything that we need, which I think helps the imports more so perform on game day, because you know, like if you know you're getting all the stuff you need to take care of, your focus is just football. Whereas I feel like on other teams, there's issues when it comes to stuff like that. So rather than just practice and game day, it's you got to deal with all this other noise in a foreign country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest hurdles I see with teams is their imports don't feel taken care of, and then they don't perform. They just more not even actually so much perform, because I feel like for the most part imports that difference tends to be so big that they make plays regardless. It's more so their attitude towards practice, attitude towards like following the rules of the games, or just that starts to tank. The more you see like late payments, the more you see promises that didn't come through, the more you see, I mean, pretty much that, like, hey, you promised me this, I didn't get it, and you didn't communicate to me, then I start seeing the imports attitude just be like, well, if you're not taking care of me, I'm not going to take this seriously.
And I feel like it's tough because when you have the imports, the other guys might think, oh man, he's just being selfish, or like, you know, it's about him, and it's like, no, these are about things that affect my life, like stuff like getting paid on time, or these are promises that were made beforehand. Like, it's not like, okay, I don't have a fan in the house. You know what I mean? You can live without that, but for the most part, it's about things that are like, do really affect like how you're living, how you're comfortable. And I feel like sometimes like the local players, the team that you're at, might not understand that, hey, like getting a late payment is a big deal, because that's probably the money you survive off, and like you might have things back home that like, or commitments that you have to take care of, and those aren't taken care of because you're not getting paid on time. And then it's like, well, I'm not gonna smile at practice because I haven't been paid. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's pretty valid. Where I see the biggest problem typically is communication.
Right.
For me, for example, like we've had some pretty irregular payment schedules. Like, it's random, bro. It is like,
you might just get it tomorrow.
Like, no joke. Like, I think for May, I think we got it for June, we got it at the beginning of June, and then for July, we got it at the end of July.
Oh,
so
wow.
There was like 2 months go by.
Yeah.
And it was like in July is when they decided we're going to switch payment to the end of the month. So it was like, you kind of got to let people know of that. Now, for me, the reason why I've been able to be pretty successful and keep good relationships is because I take care of my money pretty well. Like, I'm never putting myself in a position where I'm relying on that check to come on that day. Because if it was and I didn't get it, then I would be actually kind of tripping.
But I feel like you've been here, so you understand that, hey, like you kind of need to have a safety net in case that doesn't come in time. But I guess for guys where it's their first time, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you will see it and hear it from those guys for sure. And so, yeah, I think like for me, like I know this is a startup. Like I knew coming into this season, this is the first time this team has existed, and they were making moves that I was already like, I don't know about that, but I was like, hey, it's your team, not mine. And then those problems came, and I was like, I could have told you that, but you know, I'm just gonna be supportive.
And it's funny because I feel like, especially as someone who's had experience in Europe, I would have consulted you because everyone knows that with new teams, regardless of how good your coaching is or regardless of how good your players are, there are organizational issues that are going to come up, like you said, that, and those will affect what happens on the field. So why wouldn't you ask someone who's had experience in Europe, who's been here, hey, what do you think about doing this or that? Like, what's it been like for you in the past? Even just to get an insight. They might still decide to do the same thing, but okay, let's get an insight into how this might affect the team and the imports that we bring over.
Yeah. Man, you just gave me a great idea. I think that maybe in the future I could go into some sort of consulting for sure, like for teams, or even like a liaison between the athletes and the organization, because I understand both sides. Like even like being a business owner back in the States, I understand that aspect of it and making business decisions. But if you don't communicate those clearly to the people, then you're gonna get a lot of issues, you know.
Which is why I feel like Munich are doing so well, because they brought Sean as an athletic director, and it's like he's been an import for most of his time here. So it's like all the little things. I mean, I don't know exactly, but like, you know, he definitely has a lot of insight into like how the team is running, because he's been an import for so long. He knows, like, he's seen imports come and go at the Raiders. He's been there for such a long time, so he knows, like, yo, this is what we need to take care for these guys. This is what's important.
Right.
This can wait. And yeah, I feel like that's the part why they're getting better every weekend, and their organizations for the most part seems like legit.
Right. I literally, right before you mentioned it, I was going to bring up Sean. I was talking to him today, and I told him I'm going to get him on here because I want to talk to him from his perspective, hear how he's doing. But when I was talking to him at the beginning of, or like last year, potentially to play for Munich, I remember our first conversation. He was telling me, you know, at first I was a little overwhelmed, and then I was like, but really, you're like the perfect man for this job because you actually understand those little things. And he gave me an example back in like October. We were talking about how the ownership came to him and was like, we're gonna buy like 60 Rydell speed helmets, and he was like, wait, don't do that. Not everybody wants to wear that helmet.
Right.
Right?
And it's the little things. Yeah.
It's like little things like that, because I can't wear that helmet, dude. It hurts my head. So like if I showed up and they're like, no, you have to wear this helmet, I'd be like, I'm not wearing this helmet. Like, I'm not gonna do it. Like you want me to play at my best, I can't wear this helmet. So it's little things like that I told him. I was like, bro, you're gonna do a great job, and I think they are doing a great job.
Right. And it's literally little things like that. Because now you save a bunch of money buying a bunch of helmets that people might not want to wear. So it's like, it's literally that I feel like a lot of teams, especially a lot of the new teams, could deal with. Whether it's a full-time role or like you said, like a consultancy like role. You're like, hey man, what do you think about this idea I have? Because for the most part, a lot of owners don't know anything about being an import or running a team. They just have loads of money. So it's like, let me save you some money, man.
Right. So like, for example, we our ownership brought in, I think, hey coach, how many American coaches did we originally bring in? 5. When we've lost 2. We had 6, we lost 2. Well, like, one of the things, like, we had a guy who came in whose health was just like, if I met the guy beforehand, I'd be like, that guy is not going to survive in Europe. Like he can't, because you have to be like you got to be able to walk a
Right.
lot.
That's a big
If you're-
thing.
If you can't like just walk like a good mile, 2 miles, 3 miles a day, you're not gonna make it. And he literally left. He left because he could, like, his health was like not good enough, and he just bounced. He like bounced one day, and it was like, well, that costed the team all of them. Like, we had to spend money for the visa, we had to spend money on his apartment, like all this stuff that it was like, I mean, cool guy, whatever. But I would, if I'd have met him, I would have been like, yo, hey, coach, just so you know, have you been walking about 5 miles a day? How have you felt? And he said, I never walked 5 miles a day in my life. I'd probably say, then you probably shouldn't come to Europe.
Yeah, this is Europe, man. Everyone knows you have to walk. Like,
You have to walk. And those are the things that if you don't have the experience, you just wouldn't know. And so
right. And it's not your fault. Like you said, like, you just wouldn't know. Like, you just wouldn't even think about it. Like, hey, I need to make sure this coach is comfortable walking. But like you say, if you don't have the experience, then it's like, you didn't do nothing wrong, but at the same time, you could have saved yourself a whole lot of mess if you had consulted someone who's been here, who knows how like things work, who's had that transition.
Exactly. Yeah, man. So I got 1,000 more stories that I could share on that topic, but I'm gonna kind of move past it because we got about 8 minutes left here before the Zoom runs out, and I'm not gonna pay for the upgrade. All right. So how many years have you played in Europe?
This will be my 6th year. Yeah. So 6, yeah.
So 6 years. Would you say that this is the best season you've had, as far as just like overall experience?
Yeah, overall experience, definitely, yeah. In terms of like the whole package of like, obviously the team's winning, the organization's great, the fans are great, like the living situation's really good. So overall, I'd say this is like definitely the best I've experienced.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? Like, I guess, what do you think would be one of the biggest things to help grow the sport and make this league sustainable? Because as we've seen, a couple teams are falling out.
Being a bit more selective with locations of teams, I think like it's very obvious what cities need a team. Like everyone keeps saying London. And it's like London has that fan base. Yeah, there might be stuff with Brexit and whatever, but you know for a fact if you have a team in London and you do a good job of marketing, you're going to get loads of people coming to games. And really, that's where teams make their money from, like people coming to games. I saw someone talking about having no import rule for Europeans that don't have a team in their country. I feel like that would be really good. Yeah, that's about it, really. That's what I have in mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that just figuring out what cities have the market of football and starting there. I think it was premature to pick some of these teams, just because it's like, oh, you know, let's just put a team in that country. But if that team hasn't shown any real success internationally,
then no.
Then I mean, it's hard to keep an organization going when they're just getting blown out every game.
And it's tough
because fans are not going to want to watch that, and then inside the team, people, I mean, if you're getting blown out, you're like, I don't want to go to practice. I'm not trying to go to this game. I'm not trying to put my body out there when we don't even have a chance. And so I think, like, if there's I don't know exactly how it would work, but we got to make the gap between like the best team and the worst teams like smaller.
Right, I agree.
It's way too big.
Way too big. And I feel like that's kind of why I'd say get rid of that EU import rule, just because then like the teams that aren't so good, if they have the money, they can bring in better players or they can attract better players. Whereas I feel like teams in Germany have the advantage because I wouldn't say Germans are the best at football in Europe, but they have more experience playing at a professional level. So for example, on our defense, other than our 2 Americans, I think we only have Germans on our defense. Like, we didn't spend any EUs on our defense because like a lot of our Germans have experience playing at a high level, at a professional level. Whereas I feel like some countries you won't get that. For a lot of their local guys, this will be their first experience playing at a professional level, playing in front of big crowds, or having to travel abroad for a game. If you can mitigate that by bringing in guys who have experience, whilst those other guys build their experience up, then why not do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I think that could be a pretty good solution. I think the issue I have is that's like also just money disparity. You know, like whatever team has a lot of money, they should be able to do pretty good. Minus, I mean, Paris isn't. I don't think they're really a great example of that because I do think that Paris has a good amount of money. But granted, they are also just playing really good teams as well.
Honestly, I feel like Paris has had it super tough out of all the expansion teams. Like, when I think about the division that we're in, Frankfurt, they've won a championship. Rhein is doing really good. Hamburg have been to the finals 2 years in a row. Like, you put a new team there, anyone's going to struggle. But I feel like their record isn't a reflection of, like, how well they play. I feel like they play way better than, I'm not sure what their record is, but they're doing way better than you'd think for a new team in like that division. Is super tough.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. I agree with you. Well, any other final thoughts?
Nah.
Do you feel old? Do you feel old?
Pardon?
Do you feel old?
Yeah. I didn't before the season, and then I got here and I got to meet a lot of the guys. Like, granted, on our team we have a lot of older guys, but when I'm looking at some of the other teams, they have 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, even 24-year-olds. I'm like, man, I'm definitely at the back end of my career. I'm like, okay, Glenn.
Yeah, man. I think like the average age on our team's like 22, 23. Man,
That's insane.
Our offense is so young, bro, and that's been one of the difficulties for us. That's why I think a big reason we've struggled so much offensively is nobody on offense. I'm trying to think. Yeah, nobody on offense has played in this league before, and nobody has really played at a high level in Europe. I think I'm the only one out of our entire offense who's played in like a higher level in Europe. Oh, man.
They might have you snapping the ball at one point, like.
I'm telling you, bro, it was like after that Rhein Fire game, I really had that thought, like, what am I doing here?
Hey, I'll be so honest with you, going into that game, I was thinking, man, Silas is going to have a tough time.
Oh, I already knew I did because we didn't have a quarterback, and
yeah,
I pulled my hamstring the Wednesday before that game.
Damn.
So I was playing on a grade 2 strain hamstring that whole game and then the next few games, and like, it was tough. I that whole time I was just like, man, I'm just gonna take this experience.
Get good clips for your vlog. You know, let me get my drone out. I'm gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna enjoy this. Like, regardless of what happens, I'm gonna enjoy this. Get some good footage and. I'm good.
Always. All right, man. This thing is going to cut out, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. This was fun.
And we'll see you in Switzerland.
Oh, that should be fun.
All right, brother. Have a great day.
Thank you, man. Bye.
All right.